Hi, I want to welcome Brittney Welch here to my Overcomer series. This is our first time meeting. Hi, Brittney.
Hey.
I'm really excited. I'm excited because I love, through everything I go through, I always try to find people that I find inspirational in their stories. And when I reached out and asked, for people to send their stories, you're like, hey, I've gone through this, this, and this. What do you want? And I love your obviously you've dealt with it and you're ready to reach out and share your journey and your story. So I'm excited. Thank you for doing this interview. I
Yeah,
appreciate
of course.
it. I appreciate it. So, gosh, I don't even know where to start. So you're not from, we're both in Colorado Springs and in the same industry.
Yes.
And congratulations on a kick-ass work week. You've been kicking butt this week, closing
Thank you.
the deal. And so, I think a lot of times, especially social media nerd show the whole story and we see women and you're just like, awesome, but I think your drive and passion definitely comes from within, deep within. And so kind of tell us about it. Where are you from? Where do you originally come from?
So I was actually born in Flint, Michigan. So I lived in Flint, Michigan until I was 14. I was basically in and out of foster care most of my childhood. So I never was really stable in one home growing up. Then I moved to Atlanta, Georgia when I was 13. I lived there until I was 23, and then I left from there, moving to Alaska. I basically lived all over the place, including 5 different states: Alaska, Tennessee, Colorado, Michigan, Georgia. But I reside here and I stay here obviously now, and I've been here for 6 years. So I do love it here. So yeah, but I'm from Flint, then to Georgia, and then a couple places here and there.
Okay. So healing is definitely a big part of this journey. And I saw you just recently this week posted a picture with your mama. And
Yeah.
I imagine just in the I'll probably get emotional, cry through this whole thing. But I imagine in your journey going through that with your mama, there obviously were some struggles. And there's obviously been some healing because you're at a place where you're like sitting next to her and kind of, proud of her. And so what situations took you and put you through the foster system?
So my mother always struggled with different addictions throughout her whole entire life, and those addictions basically took over her life, now not allowing her to take care of her children, basically is what it was. So there's 9 of us total, but I only have one older brother and one younger sister that are by blood. And we were separated at a young age, and then brought back together and then separated again. And we were constantly just in and out of the system, and when we were 13, or when I was 13, that's when I was taken away for good. And I was moved in with my grandparents. And so that's when I moved to Georgia, was when I moved in with them. So they took care of me and my life was fantastic after that. But growing up from 13, up until I was 13, I lived with a lot. I mean, there was times where, like I said, we didn't even have a place to live, and we had to go night by night, not knowing where we were gonna, stay and things like that. And that followed me. I mean, that exposure is what ended up causing me to have a tumor later on down the road, because the exposure was from radiation, which was from plants in Flint, Michigan, the rundown GM plants and stuff like that. So, it ended up following me down the road. And not only that, but just mentally, it made me a stronger person as well. So I don't regret it. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take it back, anything that I went through, but not that it was easy either. But when I moved in with my grandparents from like 13 to 23, when I moved out when I was 23, I think I moved out when I was 19, but when I left Georgia, I was 23. My life was great. My grandparents were great. You know what I'm saying? So they raised me to be a really, really good human being, and like teach me a different side of life. And then it allowed me to show that kind of life to my kids, so I could see, hey, don't follow these paths, but follow this path.
Right.
So and the reason why I say that is because today it's 6 years since my mom died. My mom died 6 years ago today. So my dad, which is my grandpa, who raised me after, I was taken away, and basically my entire life with my mom back and forth. He actually passed away, a week later. So the day of my mom's funeral next week will be when I lost my grandpa, and I buried them both together in Flint, Michigan, 6 years ago. And it was a very, very difficult time. I didn't even make it in time to say goodbye to him. And that haunted me for a while because he didn't even know my mom was sick. So it was really, really difficult. All he knew is that I didn't make it, but make it down there. But I think that it eventually, you know, ended up okay. And I ended up dealing with that in my own kind of ways and processing it. And
I realized it was that day, and I find an irony in that we're talking about it today, that it just ended up for me today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Wow. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like maybe a tribute and a blessing towards her.
Yeah.
To her. And I mean, I know for myself, you kind of speak from that, but coming from a place of healing, it took I think my whole life to figure out my own mother's stuff. You know, she passed away when I was 11 and dealing with it. And it does.
It's hard when you're young. It's like, it's hard to mentally accept that and then try to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. Now, so when you were, I want to kind of dig in because the reason I like sharing these stories too is because they relate to so many other people and it helps them with their healing. So when you were living on the streets, was with your family? That was with your mom? You guys were kind of going around?
Yeah, my mom and my younger sister. Huh?
How old were you then?
13. Yeah, so it was basically from 11 to 13. So yeah, about 2 years straight. And then that's when I was taken away, was at 13. And I ran away, essentially. And then I got caught, you know, and I truly believe that nobody runs away for no reason, you know. And I wasn't in trouble. Like, I wasn't a troubled kid or anything like that. But I was just in a situation I didn't want to be in. And so I ran away from it. And I ended up going to a friend's house. And then they ended up calling people. And then everybody came in, you know, and family from all over. And then it was a blessing in disguise for sure.
Yeah. What was your experience? I only ever had one foster home, and I think it was about 6 months. And they were nice people. They were good people. I remember they make Mickey Mouse pancakes, you know, for us kids, and they had a ranch, and they would take us to feed the pigs sometimes. And it was we hear about bad experiences. What were your situations with your families? Did you at least have some good families?
Yeah. So I lived with 2 separate families during those times, and they were fantastic people. In Michigan, you know, back in those days, it's way worse now, don't get me wrong, but back when the plants first shut down, there wasn't as much to deal with as there is now with the Flint water and things like that everybody has to deal with up there. But the foster homes that I was placed in, they were actually really, really good. I was out in Clio. I got sent to Clio out into a farm, and they ended up having a pond and a whole bunch of farm animals and things like that. So when I saw those different sides of families and just a really good household, and then I got placed back where I was, I knew that I needed to get out of that situation. I think that going into these foster care situations that I was in, I was very blessed. I only had 2. They were very fortunate to be great people. I still talk to them to this day. But I think that like opened my eyes up too. I matured at a very young age because of it. You know, I had a younger sister. She was 3 years younger than me. She was born, you know, 3 months premature. Mentally, she wasn't all there. So it was like she was kind of borderline on the scale, you know, for autism and things like that. So she deals with, you know, fetal alcohol syndrome and just a bunch of stuff. So I really had to take care of her and watch her as well. And then kind of try to block her from seeing a lot of the things that, you know, I was seeing as the older sister and all the violence and stuff. My mom was in a lot of abusive relationships and in and out of them, which is what caused us to be in and out of different places and things. So the foster care was actually a blessing for me, believe it or not. So it caused a lot of my family. I have 2 aunts that went into foster care afterwards, and one of them now has 9 kids that they adopted through the Michigan foster care system. So yeah.
So that's like the beautiful good side of foster homes, and I love it. I just kind of want to, I was a foster mom for a little bit, and it's hard. It's hard when you've taken, you know, kids that have been through a lot and stuff, but to other people, if you've kind of been on the fence about being a foster parent and, you know, a foster family, and you don't have to be perfect people. You know, these kids aren't.
You really don't. You have to love. That's what you have to do. You have to love and just have a good, you know, a good place for them to go, basically. Nobody's perfect, As simple
Yeah,
as that.
these kids just they just need some security and some,
Absolutely.
something stable. So,
Yep. Yep.
so how old were you when you got your own place?
I was 18.
18. Did you feel I got mine when I was a junior in high school. And I remember feeling like that's it. Like my childhood's gone, and at the time.
Yeah.
I was
All
like,
of
I
a sudden,
forgot.
one day you don't have bills, and then you have bills one day, and you're like, well, wait, I thought this was going to be easy. I thought, I was going to be on my own, and life's going to be great. And
Yes.
it's
And
hard.
then your friends that still live at home are going shopping and buying cars, and you've got to pay electricity. You
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
pay that phone. Did you
Yeah.
feel gypped, like in that moment, in that time, do you feel gypped, like, what the heck?
Yeah. I did. I did. I moved into, I lived in Georgia at the time, and I ended up moving out with my best friend, and we got like this little 2-bedroom duplex and barely even had heat. Like, oh my gosh, I think we got broken into like twice. It was so bad. And we stayed there like 3 years. It was $400 in rent. So it was a good time, and just moving on up in life. That's what you got to do. Everybody starts somewhere and then you just move up, but you just never give up.
Yeah. What brought you to Colorado?
Military. Yep. Yep. So I followed the military around for, let's see here, 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So my ex-husband, my kid's father, he was active duty. So we were basically together since I was 15. I met him in high school. And then now we're still on great terms. He got out, he stayed here, I stayed here. We have a great relationship for the kids. And I think that that's really, really important, that you put your differences aside, that you might grow apart or whatever, but it's important that you maintain a really good relationship for your children. And we do.
Yes, that's awesome that you get to have that.
Yeah.
So you're out here living in Colorado, and when did you start getting symptoms of your tumor? That stuff isn't always diagnosed right away.
Actually, so I was having issues when I lived in Alaska. So I left Georgia, I told you I ended up in Tennessee and then Alaska or whatever. So I was in Alaska for 5 years, and then I started having these issues where I would kind of faint, I guess you would say. And then so I went to the doctor, and they're like, oh, no, you're fine. You're probably just having faint spells. And I was like, all right. So I had this huge bump on the side of my face, and I can send you pictures of all this if you want it. But I had this huge bump on the side of my face, and I'd be like, hey, doc, what's this? What's this? Well, I'm Native American, so my dad is 50% Arapaho. So they told me that it was just my high cheekbones, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Well, this bump just kept growing, right? And it was just there. So when I moved here, the elevation, I started getting all these crazy symptoms. I was fainting worse, for 7 to 8 minutes at a time, things like that. And I have a heart murmur, right? And so I went to the doctor, and they're like, oh, your heart. So they started testing my heart and all this. And then so my son was having a bunch of ear infections at the time. And so he went to the ENT because he was getting tubes put in his ears. So while we were there, I was like, hey, doc, while I'm here, what do you think this is on the side of my face? Because it was right on my cheekbone. So I figured.
And he didn't say it's one Native American high cheekbone.
He looked at me and he was like, oh my gosh. And in my son's appointment, he had me in an ultrasound machine. And on the ultrasound machine, he was like, I don't know if, but if it's benign or if it's cancerous. He's like, but you have a mass on the side of your face. He's like, and no matter what it is, you're going to have it removed. And I was like, oh, great. I didn't even expect that, So here I am. He had me in an MRI, and he had me in, they did a biopsy 3 days later. It was a Friday. They had me in on a Tuesday the next week to do all that. So the tumor came back precancerous, and I was having all these issues, and he was like, oh my gosh, we have to get you in right away. Well, this was 4 years ago during the budget cuts. So there was nothing going on in the military at that point in time as far as surgeries. So I sat there for 3 months with all these issues going on in my face. And then finally they got me in, and they took it out, and I had a 6-hour nerve reconstruction. So instead of having 3 nerve branches, I have 10.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I have 10 now, and then I'm basically no feeling from here over. So I can't feel my ear or anything like that. Eventually it'll come back. Your nerves take an inch a year to heal. So I had all of it reconstructed. So every day that goes by gets better. You know what I'm saying? But I've been tumor free for 4 years. I did 2 rounds of chemo, a round of radiation. I was very fortunate. I lost probably about 1/3 of my hair, but I didn't have to do enough to where I lost it completely. But it never really. It used to be super thick. now it's just here, you know. But very, very fortunate, and I've been tumor free for 4 years since then. Just monitoring myself and taking care of myself. It was a very, very difficult time.
So kind of like myself, you're I just think of it, you're like, survivor mode. We handle stuff, we deal with it, we get to things later, what's important, and our kids always come first. So my health was always on the back burner. I would have never thought I was ill or sick or anything like that. So did you find, was that kind of what you found with your face? Like, you have this big lump on, so most people we think in our right mind, when they have symptoms, are going to be like, not to have our doctor tell us that it's our cheekbone just growing, but it's easy to push aside because our kids, right? Because of life.
Yeah, and it was, and my kids were super young at the time. Like, they were 2 and 3. Like, they're 13 months apart, so they're super young, and it was really, really difficult. And then just going through it was difficult. Was just, all I can say is just one day at a time. You know what I'm saying? But you have to take care of yourself as well. And that's something I learned because recently, I had my broken leg that I just got over. And so I got to the point where I was running myself ragged again, just like I was when my kids were little. And what happened? I broke my leg. So it's important, especially as, we get older adults and our kids get older and things like that, that we also take care of ourselves so we can take care of them. So I've had constant reminders of that. And that was one of them, was definitely going through that. So you just got to take care of yourself.
Yes. I'm all about prevention now and listening right away and not being stubborn and getting it done. Because I know a lot of people were just like, oh, we'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
Where was your dad through all of this? Like, when you were living on the streets and in foster homes, where was he?
So my dad, my biological dad, was in prison my whole life. So he went to prison when I was 3 months old. He was very, very good friends with, I'm sure you've seen the movie White Boy Rick that was taking place in Detroit. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but if you haven't, you should. So my dad was very big into violence and things back in the 80s and stuff like that. And he ended up going to prison when I was 3 months old, all the way until I was 18. Okay. He got out when I was 18. He ended up going back a few months later. He's just hasn't been there at all. And now he has all this debt that he owes, and because my mom went after him for child support when I was little, and so he's having to pay the system back and all that, and he's like harassing me about it. He's like, I don't know. And he's like, I don't know why I have to pay $15 a month, and I'm like, I don't really know either. Like, there's nothing I can do because my mom's not here, so nobody can really do anything. He put himself in that bind, but he just, I don't think that he should talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way that he talks to me, like, he's not a good person. We'll just put it that way. So I just choose not to have him in my life and always have my entire life. His family is amazing. Once I went through foster care and stuff like that, his parents went through the court system and had me legitimized as his child and things like that. So I would never have to do that again after I went and lived with my other grandparents. They kind of worked together to get me out of the situation. So I can't say enough great, fantastic things about, his family. But I hope that one day he, comes around. And
so it was his parents that took you in when you were 13?
No, it was my mom's parents.
Oh, okay.
But they worked with them to get me in that situation, to get me in a better situation. And then they made sure that, if something happened to them or something, I never went back to that situation. So they were always on standby, is what I'm saying. So, and even to this day, they're fantastic people. So
I believe, I think there's a lot of reasons we're getting sicker, whether it's emotional. I think we change our body's chemistry, and that changes, and our kids inherit that. We can change our DNA by how we think and feel. And do you believe, I kind of, go back and into my family and their history and things that they've been through, and a lot of the autoimmune diseases we have. Do do you believe in that at all? Do you look back at family curses and just try to piece it together, like that's why they were like this, so that's where that's why they reacted this way, and that's where this came from? Has that been able
I
to
do.
do you? Does that help
I
you?
do. It's funny because I feel like when you look at so my mom's side of my family and my dad's side of the family is a very, very different side. They're very different people. There's nothing wrong with that, but they're just very different people. And it's when you go to one side, you can see different aspects of that side. And then when you go to the other side, you can see different aspects of that side. You can see where the family tree places everything together and where everybody gets things from. And then as you meet people growing up and you see their families and things like that, you can definitely see the inheritance and the genes and everything, whether it's health-wise, physical health-wise or mental health-wise, or how you live or how you, function as an adult, just in general. I definitely feel like how you're raised and how your family is in general is a big impact on that.
And it excites me to see, not that you went through all of this, obviously, but just kind of how it trickles down to you, and you're like, no, this is ending with me. I'm gonna I'm gonna be there for my kids. I'm gonna take control of my life. I'm gonna start real estate and kick butt at this career. It's exciting.
And that's the thing, is that I see so much aspects of my mother inside me that that my mom she was such a fantastic woman. She loved everybody. She just had her issues, just like we all do, but some people just can't overcome them. And really in life, no matter what you go through, because my life has just always been handed one thing after another, you just have to overcome it, because the sun comes up every day. Every single day you wake up and the sun comes up, and you have no choice but to live it. And you're in charge of your own destiny. From the time you're born to the time that, you pass into, the next life or whatever you believe in, the only person, and I mean this with all the love I have, the only person that you have from start to finish is yourself. So you have to be able to prepare yourself mentally to overcome everything. My kids will never see anything that I've seen as a child. They will never go through what I went through as a child. And I hope to God that I never have to go through any of that again. So that is my biggest focus, and my biggest reason for working as hard as I do, is to be able to provide so I don't have to do that. And it's such an accomplishment to see where I've came from, and where I am. And anybody that thinks that, they don't have it in them, that they can't do it, that they can't get out of a situation or something of that sort, you absolutely can. You don't have to live like that. It might be a lot of hard work, but it is so rewarding. It is so rewarding at the end of the day also to just be like, I did this on my own without any help. Like, I have nobody, I have no parents anymore. Like, I would be homeless again if something happened. I have nobody. It's just not going to happen.
It's a huge accomplishment, and that's why I'm so happy that you are in my Overcomer series. And I'm certain it will never happen to you again, because you've been through the worst of it, and you've seen, and you see what you're capable of now. I mean, if you could talk to your 13-year-old little self when she was living on the street, 11 to 13-year-old self, what would you tell that little girl, right? That little girl where she was, you get a chance to be the person that you didn't have. What would you tell her?
Oh man, I would tell her to buckle up and hang on for the ride. But at the end of the day, she's going to come out on top mentally. She's going to be smart. You learn so much street smarts and mental smarts from what you go through in life, and just seeing what you could go through if you decide to follow certain family, history events, if you decide to go in the same path as your family, you could see what you could do, or you could be like, hey, I'm not going to do that. And then you could go in the other path, because I had the option to see what all these things do to you as a person, and what all these things do to you, your children and your family, and to yourself. I mean, you only live once, and then you do all these harmful things to you, like, serious drugs or whatever it is. And you see it, and I don't wish that I had a good childhood. I'm glad that I went through the things that I did as a child. I don't judge anybody because of that too. Like, anybody can come to me and be like, hey, I have this issue or this issue. And I guarantee I've seen worse. With the things that I have seen in my childhood, I guarantee I've seen worse. And I've seen people come out on top as well, and come through those situations, and then overpower them, and you would never even know they came from that. And that is so rewarding to see somebody do that. So we all have our lows in life, you know, and the important thing is that you got to find someone that you can confide in to talk about those lows, to help you get out of that situation. And there's people out there that's not going to judge you, that have been through that mentally, and they're going to know that they can help you through them. So I'm very happy that I went through that stuff, because I can help people with it now, and I can help children. And I talk to children. I like to talk to children on a regular basis about that kind of stuff, and just try to help guide them through it, because when they get older, I just hope that it affects them the same way as it did me, in a good way and not in a bad way.
I love that, because you do have so much to give. There is so much to your story, and you are such an encouraging woman. That was going to be my next question. What impact do you, taking everything that you've been through, you know, and you're building your life and your legacy, you know, that you're going to pass to your kids, what impact are you hoping to leave on the world? You know, you take with you, you know, from where you've been.
Well, I mean, you know, I feel very blessed with the impact that I'm giving currently, and I just want to build from that. You know, there's a lot of people in Michigan, and a lot of people in Georgia, and a lot of people in my past that look out to me, and they're like, "Hey, you're doing so good. You're doing so well. I'm so proud of you. Like, I watch your story. I lived through your story. I lived through your life. You know, I mean, I travel a lot, you know, I mean, another thing that I like to do for my mental self, I like to work hard and then travel a lot, and it helps me take care of myself mentally, which goes back to what we talked about. You have to do that. But there's so many people that look up to me, you know, and that's such a rewarding feeling. And that's really, I mean, that's the biggest beauty in it, to be honest.
Yeah. To be able to give back. I love it.
Yeah.
Who inspires you? Who do you say, like, wow, that person is, I mean, you inspire me, and you're going to inspire others. You already are, and you're going to continue to inspire others through your story. But who inspires you?
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people that inspire me. My little sister being the biggest one. She's my number one fan, and I'm her number one fan. We've both been through a lot, you know, in our lives, and she inspires me. There's, you know, a lot of people out there that Katy Perry inspires me in her story. And there's a lot of people that have just overcome a lot of negative things in their childhood. And if you've ever overcome anything in your life and came out on top, then you inspire me. Whether it be, you know, just mental things, or if you went through an addiction and came out on top, just being there inspires me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a best friend who passed away in 2009. She's my best friend for 13 years. And she ended up getting an addiction and having an accidental overdose. Her husband suffered a major mental loss. He was blown up in Iraq and ended up missing half his head. And they went through a lot of things through rehab, and she went through a hard time and ended up getting addicted to some things. And she wasn't able to beat it, but where I come from, there's a lot of people who have, and there's a lot of people that currently still struggle with that. And I like to reach out to them and help them through it. And then I have a friend right now who's currently going through a rehab program, and I talk to her once a week through the counselor and things like that. And I've been helping her get through that. And it's really hard, especially when you have kids and family at home. But I feel like that's your biggest reason, you know, is to find a reason and then have that reason and attack it. And if you can do that, you know, you can inspire anybody. You know what I'm saying? I meet people every day that inspire me. So it's hard to pinpoint that to a couple different people.
That's a great answer. I love it. What does being a strong woman mean to you?
Okay, so being able to handle obstacles. So especially in our industry, there's a lot of objections and stuff that we have to handle. A lot of people think that, you know, we're just salespeople. All we care about is ourselves. You know, I door knock 300 houses a week, so I deal with a lot of negative feedback. If you can train yourself mentally to not let that affect you, it's a really, really good thing. So, for example, if somebody's like really negative and they say something negative to you, they're probably having a really rough day. You just got to remember that. Their day is probably going a lot more rougher than yours. So mentally, if you can build yourself up to handle anything that life throws at you, and a lot of times you have to go through those things, which is to where I am, then I feel like mentally you can come out on top, honestly. And that's what it is. I mean, you can fall just as quick as you rise, mentally, spiritually, financially, in your career, in your family, in any avenue of your life. You can fall as quickly as you rise. So every day you have to get up and keep building. Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, I get it. It's really, really hard, but you don't have any choice. That's life, especially as an adult. So.
I mean, it is the choice, and we have that. And I think that's what's wonderful about you. You've always had that since you were young. And, it's people, there's a lot that we can't control, but there's so much we can. And the way we look at it and the choosing to not give up and the choosing, I call it wearing other people's, say crap, because I'm going to put this on.
Yeah.
Facebook. But I'm not going to wear your stuff. That's yours. And whatever triggered you, if I remind you of somebody or that, but I hold my own space. I create my own joy. I create my own peace. And
exactly.
My own destiny. And I won't be.
And you have to, because there's a lot of people in art, especially in our industry. You deal with a lot of people that aren't fully there, or not even just fully there, but there's just a lot of negative things that you have to deal with in our industry, or a lot of stress. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stress. You have to deal with a lot. Yeah, exactly. So you have to learn how to deal with those emotions and how to create that border. So don't get me wrong, there's a lot of times where a lot of things do get to me, and I feel like you're not human if things don't get to you. So I do struggle with things, even being as strong as I am, but those things keep making me stronger. And so everything that I go through every single day, when I find something new that I have to go through, I reflect back on the things that I've been through, and I'm like, listen, how did you get through this? How did you get through this dilemma 2 years ago when, you had the same issue happen on a previous house or something like that, or, anything that you have,
right.
Anything. How did you get through that? And then you take how you got through that mentally and you reconstruct those ways into getting it through you again. You know what I'm saying? You're like, man, if I can get through that, then I can get through this. If I can get through this, then I can get through this. And you just reflect back on, that's how I do it. I reflect back on something that happened and I'm like, man, I got through that. I'll get through this. One day at a time. Like I said, one day at a time, always. Every day the sun comes up. Every day is a new day. You always make it through it. That's the simple thing. You always do. Everything that I've been through in my life, I've always made it through. And so that's what pushes me through, is the constant reminder that I've made it this far.
Yeah, I love that. I say I was kind of struggling, and I have quotes similar to that. It's as long as the sun rises and the sun sets, there's always something to be thankful for. Number one, the beauty in it. There's that gorgeous beauty we have every day, and we get to wake up and see it start and end. And so, but I was struggling with that because I would always have people tell me that too. Oh, you're so strong. You're just like, I do not feel strong. I feel weak. I feel sometimes like I'm going to break. Like and you almost want to feel, I would want to feel like a fake when people would say that, because I'm not really strong, know. But it, like you said, it's not that we don't, and I want to encourage other men and women out there who feel that, and they're starting to feel like heavy and life is too heavy, and you think that's a fault. That's being human. If you didn't get to a hard situation and not feel it, there's something probably wrong there,
Exactly.
and feeling it is okay. It's like, Brittney said, and like you've done, the power to just stay there, to not give up, to push through, to figure out a way to just change your mindset and do what you can until the situation passes.
Yep, that's what you have to do. If you can't handle it one day at a time, you handle it 1 hour at a time. And you just keep breathing. And then the sun comes up every single day and you do make it through it. And there's always a way that gets figured out. And it's just, it's literally as simple as that. And it's never as simple as that, but it is as simple as that at the same time. I mean, there's a lot of hard work to get to there, mentally, physically, no matter what you're pushing through, but you just keep pushing.
I love that.
We all have to.
I'm so grateful. I'm thankful that you reached out to do this, and I'm grateful to have this meeting with you. And we're going to get together eventually and talk in person, have a drink or so, and
yes,
yeah. Well, I mean, we're in the same city, might as well.
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
officially met now, and everybody
Yeah.
else has gotten to meet you and sees what an amazing person you are, and I'm blessed by your story. One of the questions I always like to ask and kind of end with is, so there's a movie, Brittney Welch movie, life story, going up. What would be the theme song of your life, the theme song for your movie?
Oh man, I don't even know. Oh, I don't know. I guess it depends on the chapter.
Whole movie. You throw some out. Throw some out. Go ahead and throw some out. Let's go ahead and do.
Theme songs.
I'll give you more than one song.
Give me some examples. You put me on the spot here, and now I'm
It's
like, I
not
don't.
my story. It's your story. I mean, with you, like I just right away, I'm thinking dun 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 dun. I'm thinking little Eye of the Tiger here, little
Eye
rocket.
of the Tiger. Yeah, I think I could get down with Eye of the Tiger. Bad to the Bone. Bad to the Bone. That's another one. Let me see here. Man, you should have prepped me for this one.
No, this one is on the spot. You got a second? You got some time.
Let me see here. I'm not really that good with names, but
Go sing it for us.
Songs. Let's see here. I would have to stick with Bad to the Bone. That I listen to that whenever I'm going through hard times. There's a song by Antics. It's called Letters to My Unborn. And if you ever hear the lyrics to that, it's pretty spot on. It's actually by a Flint artist as well, so I listen to that quite often. Life Ain't Always Beautiful. That's another one. That was one that I listened to when, my grandma was diagnosed with cancer when I was 18 years old, and I was young, and, I lived with them at the time, and she had stage 4 breast cancer, which she defeated. And I listened to that song a lot, which was Life Ain't Always Beautiful. I think it's Gary Allen that sings that. It's a country song. But probably that one's probably going to be what gets me through mostly everything is something like that.
I love that. I'm going to have to pull some of those up. I'll put them in the section.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to hear it. Yeah. I love that. And do you have any also what are your favorite quotes, life models? I mean, this we kind of both have a connection with the sun,
Yes. Yeah. So The Lion King is like my absolute favorite movie of all time. So The Circle of Life would have to be like one of my favorite, Disney songs. And there's some quotes out of there that are pretty fantastic. And the whole movie from The Lion King, you can just pull so much out of it that just teaches you that, I've lost a lot of people and I've gained a lot of people, and that's just how life goes the older you get. I mean, I think about it, as a child, I would have never thought about my grandparents or something happened to my parents even, and as you get older, it seems so natural. So I feel like The Lion King, Circle of Life. Let's see, there's Stevie Nicks, their song Gypsy that they have. I actually have a gypsy tattooed of me on my arm with the lyrics "Still I Rise" and a cancer ribbon underneath it. And "Still I Rise" is a really, really good poem out there that's about just getting through hard times and coming out on top. Yeah. I can't swim and I have asthma, so my Stevie Nicks is it's like a mermaid, and then on the other side of my arm is like a gypsy, and then it's talking about going through your worst fears and then coming out on top, and then still you rise. So there's a couple different poems out there. Stevie Nicks is just one of my biggest, I want to say, heroes of all time. She's phenomenal. With everything that I've been through, moving so much, I'm kind of a natural gypsy. And so I like a lot of that Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Nicks and, that kind of stuff. And
Landslide is for me that she has it just like, every time.
Yeah. I love Landslide. Yes. So if you pull anything out of any of those, you'll get, some really, really good stuff. Excuse my language, but there's a quote, what is it? When one door closes, another one opens, even if there's hell in the hallway. Something of that sort. When one door closes, another one opens, even if there's hell in the hallway. That's what it is. Yeah. So there's, a couple quotes that you can go by with that. Still I Rise. You should look up that poem. It's
That's
really
Maya Angelou.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know that poem. I love
Yeah.
that. It's a good
Yeah.
one.
So I actually have that tattooed on me. So Still I Rise, and then yeah, that's probably what I go by the most.
I love that.
A lot of Lion King, a lot of Still I Rise, and a lot of Stevie Nicks, and I'm good. That's all I need.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and this interview and allowing me to share your story.
Absolutely.
I just want to keep finding more people like you to keep, inspiring others. And by sharing the story, you're going to do it. And I know you're going to keep doing it beyond this. So
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you allowing me to take the time to tell you about my story. And I just encourage anybody that's ever going through anything to, reach out, whether it's to me or somebody else. There's always somebody out there that's willing to talk to you that's been through something similar, and they're not going to judge you. They're going to stand by your side, and that's just what we do for people. And so I just encourage people to never give up and to reach out and talk to people if they're going through anything.
You're awesome, Brittney. Thank you. You're so wonderful.
problem.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye.
Okay, now how do I save this? Better have